Hello to my beautiful audience out there. This is Capital City Carolers with your president and host, Shayna Parker, and you are now listening in to the Christmas Carolers Conversation. Well, we have been having a great time in the conversation that we have been sharing out there on the airways, and we've been talking about for this holiday season family forgiveness because that's a big issue. While there's a lot of activity, a lot of gathering, a lot of lights going up, there's still a lot of offense that is not resolved out there, hurt and pain and devastation, and just issues that are not closed. But it is our hope here at Capital City Carolers through this conversation line, the Christmas Carolers conversation, that you may be triggered to think concerning areas that have, in some cases, tried to shut you down as a person and be inspired to do the personal work necessary to have the conversation necessary for reconciliation to take place. So, with no further ado, for today's episode, we are talking about unwrapping anxiety. And this is episode 7. And yes, it is unwrapping anxiety. We're in the Christmas holiday, and many people are planning or preparing to unwrap beautiful gifts. But something came to me today. I was inspired in thought of the type of emotions we experience when we're in that phase of doing the unwrapping. I don't know if you've ever experienced having that gift in a box and it's a big box and you open one box and then there's a smaller box and then you open that box and then there's a smaller box. There is a type of unraveling of emotional stimulations that take place in that process. And usually if the gift is what I would call a dummy gift, then it's kind of like a depleted response. But if the gift is something that has been highly anticipated and wanted, I mean, you get tears that burst out, you get dances, shakes, all kinds of expression to simulate the satisfaction that one found. But also, if we think about that too, depending on your most frequent outcomes of that process, it kind of dictates how you go about unwrapping your next gift in life. And we can talk about that a lot of different ways. For the sake of this conversation, we're talking about the family structure. But I don't know if you've ever experienced that family meeting being called, or, mom saying she wants to talk to everyone in the family, or dad saying that, or that sister or brother saying they have something they need to share. Dependent on the history there, it can breed something of what I'm calling today for this conversation, unwrapping anxiety. My goal is to challenge the audience out there to consider, are you carrying around unwrapping anxiety? That can be very toxic and can add to the issue of family forgiveness. And I'm going to get ready to jump in how. A lot of times when we are needing to have needed conversations, usually we have a bit of, an arrangement of emotions that can take place. And I want to talk about anxiety because I believe, if I had to give you my definition, I think anxiety is just the element of the emotion of surprise and stimulation that can go down two paths. Fear, or faith. If it goes down the path of fear, that can easily turn into torment, that can turn into habitual thought cycles of negative outcomes. But if it goes down the path of faith, that can turn into surprise, the element of joy, the element of peace, the element of experiencing love as the emotion. And so I think that this is important that we take a moment, to my audience out there, to consider when you look in your family structure. We're all in that time where there is a drawing in the atmosphere for us to, like never before throughout the remainder of the year, to share our appreciations, to share our love for one another. And with that demand, there's also a major element of fear, in that. And I want to say, if you're out there listening and you have a fear and a desire for your family to draw closer together, perhaps you're dealing with unwrapping anxiety. The thing about life that we all have to accept is we can never control the outcome. Absolutely. We just can't. There's no amount of planning that we can do to control any outcomes. There's nothing that we can do to control it. We can do our part, but we just can't control matters. And I want to encourage you there to consider your relationship with your mom, with your dad, with your siblings, with your aunts, uncles, and cousins. Consider your relationship with your in laws, and consider, are you able to be emotionally free there? Are you able to exchange your raw emotions there? Are you able to exchange your raw thoughts, there in those lanes? And in some cases, many of my audience members listening may say, no, because when I try to do that, there's the element of being misunderstood. There's the element of having to wrestle, to grapple to what I am actually trying to say that I may not have had the words for. And the last time, catch that, the last time I tried to do that, it did not go well. And so if you're sitting in that seat of apprehension and you are having a desire of wanting to be closer with your family members, I want to compel you here on this conversation line to take a moment rather than trying to unwrap that family member and the many ways of how they're going to respond. Just take a moment and unwrap the emotion that is driving you pre the conversation or pre the engagement or pre the exchange there. A lot of times we as people don't quite know how to get a grip on the emotions we're experiencing. Naturally so, in the busyness of the world, we just experience emotions and hope they land, well. And if they don't, we try to clean it up on the back end. But I think it's time that we as a people take a little bit more responsibility. So I always have a unique challenge. We're talking about unwrapping anxiety, and I want you to make a list of those family members this time that you really want to connect with on a deeper level. And I want you to really take a moment and consider what caused you to have unwrapping anxiety. And in the most simplest terms, what causes you to dial back, to hone back on not just sharing your raw and authentic self in those relationships. I guarantee you that there's some element of acceptance that we all are wanting. But the good news is that we can actually learn healthy, productive ways of dealing with that so that we can salvage having some beautiful exchanges within our families. And so that's important. That's so, so important. And so you've been listening in. This is Capital City Carolers again, and we're talking about unwrapping anxiety. We've got to unwrap it to be able to deal with it. And to truly do that authentically and productively and successfully, we have to take our eyes for a moment off of our audience and place our eyes on us to see, why are we really dealing with the emotion that we are? When we don't do that, sometimes what I've learned in life is we become emotionally numb. We train ourselves through repetitive mental rehearsal. I will not feel, I will not share. And sometimes we begin to walk through life as zombies, though deep inside we are the most heartfelt people out there. We just got lost along the maze of life, understanding how to deal with our personal sensitivities, our personal concerns. And so the second challenge I want to give you is I want you to write down those family members that you feel as though you have to be numb around, emotionless around. I want you to write that down. That's so important. And I want you to write down with both lists a list of pros and cons to the behavior course you have chosen to facilitate. I guarantee you that if you write those down and you work through those emotions, they may be layered. At the bottom of it, it may be that I really wanted acceptance. And at the top of that emotion layer, it may be I'm angry that they hurt me or that they said this. And I am not, actively in a rage at them, but in my mind, I am still cycling the thoughts of what they did. And I think it's just important that we really take a moment to acknowledge our true self state. When we can acknowledge our true self state, then we can really understand how to unwrap ourself well. And then we are empowered to unwrap those in our families to help reconciliation come together. I want to leave you with this analogy. It's so important when people are injured in traumatic ways and require surgery. That surgeon has to take a strategic approach to how they enter in the area of damage, because if they fail and don't do it properly, they may hit a nerve. They may hit an organ that may cause a terminal result. What I'm saying here today is we're all getting ready to gather in one way, shape, or form with another. Before you try to go and unwrap someone else, take a moment and unwrap yourself. And so this is the Christmas Carolers conversation. If you have something so pressing that you're like, you know what, this has stimulated me and I want to talk more about this, you can always reach out to us on our website at www.capitalcitycarolers.com. I'll be happy to dialogue with you farther because it is my heart and my passion that as a people, as a nation, we return back to what matters the most, which is giving from the heart. We will be in the great city of Tallahassee, Florida, caroling December 17th, and we want to compel you to join us or be on the lookout for us. And we have more information on our website. So until next time, I say keep the caroler spirit.